He could have taken that money, put it into a conservative investment, and still lived a very comfortable life, accepting that his ambitious visions for electric cars and space colonization were premature or unattainable, instead driven by an unwavering conviction that the goals of sustainable energy and making humanity a multi-planetary species were fundamentally necessary for the future. He chose to divide the remaining money between Tesla and SpaceX. This was an act of extreme financial and personal sacrifice, a high-stakes decision that meant if either company failed, he would lose everything, becoming financially insolvent and a pariah in the business world. He often stated at the time that he felt the probability of both companies surviving was less than 10%. The climax of this period came with two critical events that occurred in rapid succession. First, on September 28, 2008, SpaceX attempted its fourth and final launch of the Falcon 1. Against all odds and the prevailing pessimism, the rocket successfully achieved orbit, a pivotal moment that made SpaceX the first private company to successfully launch an orbital, liquid-fueled rocket. This single success was a lifeline, demonstrating competence and viability. Just 3 months later, on Christmas Eve 2008, Tesla was within hours of filing for bankruptcy. At the 11th hour, after months of grueling, desperate negotiations with investors and the final, deep commitment of Musk's last funds, Tesla secured a crucial but deeply insufficient $40 million convertible loan just before midnight, effectively buying the company a few more months of survival. However, the real salvation came a day later. Because of the success of the Falcon 1 launch, SpaceX had finally demonstrated the reliability needed to win a major contract. On December 23, 2008, just as Musk was juggling Tesla's near-death experience, NASA announced that it was awarding SpaceX a $1.6 billion Commercial Resupply Services (CRS) contract to ferry cargo to the International Space Station. This contract was the ultimate validation and provided the massive cash injection and long-term stability that SpaceX desperately needed. With SpaceX secured, the focus shifted back to Tesla, which was still limping along. Tesla's final breakthrough came later in 2009 with a $465 million loan from the Department of Energy's Advanced Technology Vehicles Manufacturing (ATVM) program, allowing the company to avoid bankruptcy permanently and scale up the production of its subsequent models. The gamble saved everything, not just because the company survived, but because Musk's unwavering commitment galvanized his teams and convinced external entities like NASA and the Department of Energy that he was a leader worthy of betting on.
Had he not risked his entire personal wealth, the morale would have collapsed, and no external entity would have stepped in. His absolute sacrifice was the proof of conviction that ultimately preserved his vision for an electrified, spacefaring civilization, transforming him from a ridiculed entrepreneur into the iconic, boundary-pushing business magnate he is today. This period stands as the most critical crucible in his career, the point where total defeat was averted by an act of radical, uncompromising faith in his mission. Would you like me to elaborate on the specific technical challenges faced by the Falcon 1 rocket during its first 3 failures?